Alrighty. Hello, my audience. This is Paul going live. At this point, probably no one is seeing it because I'm still setting up my webcam. This is actually a newer webcam that I just got. So I'm still trying to figure out the best angle so that I can be the usual cliche, hey, here's Banjo look that I've been known for when I had my old webcam. So I'm gonna shimmy around a little bit. Okay, so the room has changed a little bit because I was in a bit of a financial issue. Okay, I think this is good. Yeah, good enough. I'm probably the only one that cares about all these petty little details anyway. So I got these wart pipes from my brother for Christmas because he wanted me to display my amiibos. Only to his great dismay to find out that I had to sell all of my amiibos except one because I was in a financial difficulty. Hello, JP. I am so glad you are here. You're one of the most loyal visitors to my entire live streams. So, of all the people to join, you had to be the first one. What's been going on with you in all this time that I've been away? Actually, now that you chatted, that reminds me, I got to make a pinned chat. One moment. Not. Alrighty. That should work. Now I just got to figure out how to pin it. There we go. Got it. Okay, just wanted everyone to be aware that I am not the kind of the, the kind of guy that plays the pronoun game and calls people by theys because we as Catholics believe that God created people as man and woman and he didn't make a mistake when he was doing that. So just because you feel like you're not either one or you feel like you're opposite of what you are, that doesn't trying to deny that is like trying to deny that God did a good job. And if that's how you feel, then you don't have to be here. But I just wanted to make that very, very clear. Anyway, enough about that for the time being. So, JP, while I'm waiting for you to type out your answer, I just wanted you to know that I just got back from a water park a couple of days ago and it was fantastic. That was the final item on my bucket list, and it ended up being the highlight of my year so far. Although I did recently, did I miss a message? YouTube's being weird today. I did recently find out that I'll probably be able to go visit one of my friends, and I'm gonna definitely make a video out of that because I've recently heard that you guys really like it when I do guest appearances, and I definitely this this person that I'm going to visit, well, I'll just be blunt. I'm going to be going to visit Isabel's Psychology Life Hacks. I've known her for about a year now, give or take, and I'm really, really excited to finally get the chance to meet her and possibly do like an in-person live interview slash collab thing. And I've never actually been able to have the privilege of being able to meet one of my subscribers in person yet. So this will be like a huge stepping stone forward for my channel. Oh man. I'm really downplaying my excitement right now, but honestly, this is what I'm looking forward to the most in 2022. I haven't heard a whole lot of game announcements that have made me like beyond excited. There's a couple that made me, pretty hyped. Like when they announced Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes, I was like, "Yay, another Fire Emblem game! That's going to be great." And Kirby and the Forgotten Land looks pretty cool. The new Mario Strikers looks amazing, but nothing has made me go, "Wow! Oh my gosh, that's great!" The only thing I would imagine that would get me to just have that wowzer reaction, I don't know, maybe another Ace Attorney game. Whew. So, man, I'm already tiring myself out with all this excitement. I wish I could make these streams more regular because then people kind of they kind of have to guess as to whether their schedule allows them to be able to come to this stream, which is really unfortunate because I wish I could just give you guys a straight answer. But hopefully, in the summertime, things should change because as you know, the main reason why I can't give an exact time for when I can live stream is because these walls are ridiculously thin. I could be talking in a really quiet voice and someone will still say, "Paul, we can hear you." So I gotta be in a scenario where people are out of the house. 50 projects. Are you like? Are you trying to make your YouTube channel be more expansive, or do you mean 50 projects is in like school stuff? Yeah, I know the feeling of family stuff. My siblings are both now fathers, and so family gatherings have usually been pretty hectic because when you have a couple of less than 2-year-olds wandering around the house, it can be pretty chaotic. Because one of them cries a lot, one of them babbles a lot, and both of them need a lot of attention. So going forward, and if you have any better suggestions, please let me know. But going forward on my channel, I have quite a few ambitions to make things as exciting as possible and to make it worth my eventual goal of being the world's longest running YouTuber. I plan on making a lot more just Paulism videos where I just talk about me, myself, and I, really, where I can just say, okay, guys, I'm just going to be myself and hope that you like it. I am also going to be trying my best to incorporate more audio tracks into like my reviews and my more involved videos so that I don't always have to rely on trying too hard to make the TV too loud when I'm capturing footage. Then for my 600 subscriber celebration, as I'm sure you know, JP, I made this big poll on my community tab asking my audience what they would like to see. And I'm really glad that nearly every option in the poll was covered. So I plan on taking quite a lot of feedback into account for this celebration. I plan on making it like a fan requested thing. So, like, pretty much everything I'm doing is because you guys wanted it, but yet I'm going to put my own polished spin on it. But that also means that it'll probably take a little bit longer than usual for me to get it out because I have to wait for certain things to become possible. I don't really want to spoil it, but I think you guys are really going to like it because, again, you voted for it. And from the feedback that I've gotten from other videos, it seems like this is the kind of thing you guys like to see. That's definitely one thing I really like about my YouTube channel is that because I have far less subscribers than the average YouTuber, I definitely get more opportunities to just have my fans basically dictate what I'm going to do next, and I love it. Skits, schoolwork, animations, books. Wow. My gosh, you seem like such a busybody. I don't know how you do it. Like, for me, I haven't been in school in so long that it's hard for me to fathom like all of that homework and all that. That just seems like such a nightmare. Now, when you say skits, do you mean like are you a leader in your youth group? Are you doing it for your YouTube channel? Like, what exactly is the context of all the stuff that you're working on? Because I'm also working on a book myself. It's called The Lost Story. Some of you may have heard that before, many, many years ago. And that's because I started writing it in 2013 and I finished it somewhere around 2014. But then, you'll be shocked to hear this, JP. On the very mission trip where we met, I ran into a couple of girls who suggested that I make some revisions to the book to make it more standalone because I was originally going to have it be like a collaboration with some of my previous books, but then I decided not to get those books published. So they were like, I bet this book would be so much cooler if you were able to make it like its own book. So taking that into account ended up making me rethink how I wanted the series to look going forward. So if I eventually get this book published, I am going to credit them as the main inspiration for, how do I word this? For the book changing so much. Oh, cool! A sibling-wide YouTube channel. That sounds so amazing. I really hope you'll let me know when such a thing takes place. Like, if you have to, just go on one of my random videos and just pop me a spammy comment. Just like make sure, like, if you're sending a link, because YouTube for some reason thinks that links are spam, like maybe add a second comment that says like, "Hey Paul, check your spam folder because I sent you a link," or something along those lines, so that I can really make sure that I don't pretend that you're a toxic person. Because I very, very, very rarely block my viewers' comments. Usually they block their own comments because they don't like how I'm the son of an apologist and I can usually tell them off for their faulty logic. But usually the only comments I block is if they're spammy, filled with too much profanity, or not much else besides that. But yeah, I definitely want to see that. That definitely looks really cool. And I just really, I have this really weird obsession with liking to see the people that impacted my life. So, for example, if you watched the Best Memories of 2021 video, you'll know that I had Monica and Reba show up as guests because I met them on my very first mission trip. And this was actually the first time I had ever, in Reba's case, it was the first time I had ever like actually seen her since we met. In Monica's case, I saw like this 5-second video that she put on Facebook, but that was like 10 or 9 years ago. And so this was the first time I've actually seen her talking to me since we met. Now we did get a chance to talk on the phone prior to making that collaboration, but there's still like an added oomph when you actually see the person. Do you know what I'm talking about? Because I feel like not enough CHWC people talk about this. But like, do you just get the heebie-jeebies when you're just like, "Oh my gosh, I can actually see that person again." I mean, for crying out loud, that's exactly what you're doing right now on this live stream. So, I guess you can tell me how does that feel? How does that feel that someone you met on the mission trip is now someone who's directly talking to you right now through a camera? If I could, if YouTube ever gives an option to allow live like voice chat, I would totally do it for you guys. But as it is, I don't know how to do that. So I am so sorry that you have to be relegated to text. Although I guess to be fair, when speaking of Monica, she just sent me a text. So let's see what that has to say. Else, no, I better get to this right now because that might look weird if I wait too long to respond. I have a flip phone, so it's going to be kind of a bit of a slow process. So I hope you guys will bear with me. I'll keep my phone up here so that you know that I'm not ignoring you. I'm so sorry, guys. I hate texting when I'm in front of people, but I really should get to this as soon as possible. There we go. Finally finished it. Okay, let's see what you guys were saying. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I know. It's wild. Hey, Biggery. I'm doing great. I don't know if you were paying attention to the Discord, but I just got back from the water park on Saturday, which I think was Sunday for you, and it was a blast. Like, I made this giant paragraph in the Discord talking about how much I loved it. Is this the first time you've like seen me talking? Like, have you watched my other YouTube videos? Because I finally got a chance to talk to Peggle, and she was pretty surprised at how nice I actually am. Because apparently I have a bit of a reputation for coming across as kind of gruff. Mm. And now I got Jevil here too. Dang. It's almost as if the Discord is like leaking, and now everyone is just like onto my live stream. It's hilarious. Oh, well, if you ever need help with time management, JP, I will try to help you as best as I can. So, Big Ree and Jevil, well, Jevil, you've been here before, but Big Ree, basically, the structure of my live streams is, well, it may be kind of lame compared to what Peggle does, but basically, I just talk to the camera, and I've thought that this is, I mean, my personal opinion is that this kind of live stream is pretty lame, but you guys have expressed that you really like it. So that's the main reason why I keep doing it, is because you guys, some of you, like this more than you like my regular content. So I decided I'm going to try to live stream as much as possible then, because if that's why you guys like my channel, then I'm going to try to do it as much as possible. You're going to pre order the new Kirby game? Well, dang, Jevil, you must be a big Kirby fan because even I won't do that. Well, then again, I've never pre ordered a Kirby game except Extra Epic Yarn. But the only reason I did that was because it was the very last 3D, well, the very last 3DS game that Nintendo published. So I did it because I was like, I want to review the very last 3DS game. But yeah, I tend to have a very love-hate relationship with the Kirby games. Like, I loved Superstar Ultra. I liked the 3DS games. I thought Star Allies was decent, but a lot of the others I was just like, eh, eh. I kind of have mixed thoughts. But hey, if you like it, then more power to you. That sounds so cool. Mm. But yeah, what kind of things do you like about Kirby games, Jevil? I'd be very curious to hear why you think it's worthy of pre-ordering. So, Jevil, you weren't here when I originally talked about my 600 subscriber celebration. I actually took quite a lot of feedback from a lot of you that saw my post on the community tab. So it's going to be very much a fan driven project. Well, because I mean, if you think about it, you can't get 600 subscribers unless you have 600 fans. So, if I'm going to be celebrating the people that helped this channel be as large as it is, I might as well get the feedback from the people that made the 600 subscribers a reality. Oh, you watched my videos, Big Ree. Thank you. That means a lot to me. You'd be surprised how many people I've met that say, "Oh, Paul, you have a YouTube channel. That's so cool. I'm going to go watch all your stuff." And then they don't. So I'm grateful that you are the exception to that. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. I still haven't played Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. But Epic Yarn was, the Wii version was a snooze fest, but on the 3DS version, I would always pull out my Meta Knight amiibo so that I could get the sword, and that made everything so much more fun. Yeah, emulators I have mixed feelings on, but if you have the money to pay for a lawsuit, if someone actually accuses you of being illegal, then I don't know, good for you. I don't want to take that chance just yet because I've heard conflicting reports about emulations. I've heard some people say that it's not technically illegal, but I've heard some other people say it is. But then I've heard other people say that it's stealing profits away from companies. Although if you guys are being more of a thorn in Nintendo's sides, then maybe I'll agree with you just because I don't really like Nintendo as a corporation very much anymore. Hence why those of you who have known me for a lot longer would know that I used to be the Catholic Nintendo nerd, but then I changed my name to the Catholic Gaming Nerd because I just was getting sick and tired of Nintendo. and all of their really bad communication and stupid business decisions. And I don't know if I'd go so far as to call them anti-consumer. I'd have to do some more research into what that word means. But I would say that they don't seem to know what their fans want. They seem to be in this mindset where they have their idea of how they want the business to go. And no matter what the fans say, they're going to be like, no, we are a business and we need to make a profit. And that's just the way it is, without seeming like they want to compromise at all. The commercial. Burning discs. Jevil, you know what they said back in the 90s? They said, never play with fire. So don't be burning discs all the time. So some of you from Australia might be really surprised to know that outside my window there is a ton of snow. It's really amazing how I didn't actually know until just now that it's considered summertime in December for some cultures in the world. I don't know why. Like, I think I knew that there was a such thing as a southern and a northern hemisphere, but like for some odd reason, I never put two and two together and said, "Oh, December is not the snowy month for some parts of the world." And thinking that some parts of the world consider Christmas to be in June. I don't know. That's just something that never really crossed my mind, but that's pretty cool to think about. It is also really cool that some Australian people are like a day ahead of me, and I always thought that was funny. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that would like a new F-Zero game. The last F-Zero game that actually came out, I believe, was called F-Zero Climax, but I think it only came out in Japan. I'd have to do my research on that. Furim Industries. I bet you missed all the times that I've mispronounced your name. Welcome back. I've said a lot in the past 22 minutes and 3 seconds, so I hope I can adequately repeat everything that I was telling these guys. But to summarize really quickly, in case I can't repeat verbatim, I went to a water park. It was great. Apparently, you and JP and others are working on a bunch of skits. That's great. I'm going to go see one of my YouTube friends, Isabel. That's really great. And a new Fire Emblem game was announced, which is incredible. Oh, Jevil, you still can't tell when I'm using sarcasm. Even when I'm using my voice, you can't tell. But yeah, no, I knew you weren't actually burning discs. I was just being silly. But yeah, that's what I would call a legal gray area where it's not 100% clear if such a thing is legal or not. So that's why I don't bother. I would rather just rent the games from GameFly or buy them. More often than not, I'm not going to buy them if they're made by Nintendo. Wait, you're using an alternate account on your phone, but you're still my gosh, I can't pronounce that name to save my life. Hopefully the chat goes fast enough for you if you're on your phone. So make sure to let me know if I need to slow things down a bit because I think there's an option to do slow mode on chat. You guys might have to help me out on setting it up. But if you need, well, then again, you guys don't post that quickly. So maybe you'll be okay. But anyway, what's been going on with you? You gave me permission to call you another name, didn't you? Because I can't get the pronunciation right to save my life. But hey, at least you can't say because you're a silly American. Because if I'm remembering correctly, you're also an American. So maybe you could just say, Paul, you're just a silly person if you can't figure it out. Aragorn, thank you. I didn't want to intrude on your privacy if you didn't want that name being given, but thank you. I'll be calling you Aragorn henceforth. Two account why okay, so just curious, why do you have two accounts? Because I know some people do it for like joking purposes. Like they might make an account for Sans if they want to role play in a chat, but like yours is the same name just without an R in the industries. So it sounds like industries. Hey, now that I mention it, industies could be a really cool joke. Like, if something is industy, it could be like a dust devil or like an inbox that's dusty. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it because I recently played Pajama Sam 2 again, and that game is just so ridiculously clever with its wording that I like to think, can I be as creative as Pajama Sam? Probably not, but I can try. 2 Gmails. Dang, your email inboxes must be crazy. I'll take your word for it, Jevil. Just don't say you were ignorant if you do end up getting in trouble for it, because at the end of time, and God says, "Why were you emulating?" And you'll say, "Well, Paul told me that it might be a legal gray area, but well, I don't know. I just hope that you don't get in trouble." Hoping for the best, praying for the best, praying that you won't spontaneously combust because the copyright holder doesn't want all of your money. That's the thing I hate about corporations. Well, not all corporations. I'm sure not all of them are like this, but some corporations are so money hungry that they literally do not care about you in the slightest. And I wish I was joking right now, but I am being dead serious. Some corporations, they want to profit so much that they will even try to scam you out of your money, and that's just really sad. I don't even know. I'll definitely have to do my research on like the policies used in most companies, because if people are like abusing their employees or anything like that, real versus fake. Oh, you mean sarcasm versus not sarcasm. Okay, that's good. Glad to know that you're getting my jokes with my words. Just in case you forgot, how do I work? How do I say this? I usually try to put a lot of ellipses when I joke around in text form. So hopefully that's been giving you some hints. Games Workshop? Is that a gaming company, or did you mean to say GameStop? Because I've definitely heard some shifty things about GameStop lately. But what's Games Workshop like? What kind of games do they make? One company that I heard recently that seems to be really healthy is called Supergiant Games. The only game I know that they've made is Hades. And I heard that they basically have this policy where their employees have to take off a certain amount of time a year so that they can spend time with their families and not have work burnout. And they're also not allowed to crunch their games, which I believe that means that like they won't set this very strict deadline that they have to meet. Like their games are going to ship when they are finished. Warhammer 4K, 40K. I haven't actually played that game. But I did hear that recently they rebooted it and that game was terrible. So I guess they get what they deserve. Well, the thing with sarcasm is usually people who are good at sarcasm make it very obvious that they're joking. Like it's something so ridiculous that no person who's being actually serious would say something like that. Like for me, when I'm being sarcastic, usually it's very easy to make people realize that I'm being sarcastic because it's something that's not possible. Like if I talk about the zombie apocalypse, it's like obviously I'm being sarcastic because I don't believe in a zombie apocalypse. So therefore, it must be sarcasm. Banned fan animations. I mean, I can kind of see their perspective, but I also think they could have communicated it better. Like, instead of just outright banning them, if maybe they asked their fans, like, hey, can you not do fan animations? I bet if Nintendo did that, then maybe people would be more willing to respect them for being like cordial about things instead of just being like, take down, bye bye, you're out of here. That just sounds so rude. Like, imagine if I took down one of your comments just because, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you called me. Maybe you called me trans as an insult or a homophobe, and I'm just like, I'm going to take that down because that hurts my feelings. Wah. Instead, I'd want to start a dialogue about it. If you say so, Jevil. But since I personally don't believe in the zombie apocalypse, you'll know that I personally am being sarcastic about it. Maybe if you want to believe in it, that's fine, but I at present do not. And not only that, but if another universe exists, I don't really want it to. At least for me personally, like I'm very happy with the way my life has turned out. Granted, it's never been perfect. There have definitely been things in my past that are really sad and really depressing and have probably shaped a lot of my mannerisms. But on the other hand, I've also come so far from that past and I've been able to really overcome overcome a lot. Like the fact that I went to the water park. You all know that I used to be petrified of the water. And I was totally in my element the entire time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I talked to other people, which was something I did not try to do when people would force me to be at water events. Yes, that actually did happen on one of my mission trips, believe it or not. And I tried very hard to not say a single word to anyone because I was just so miserable. But yet, I actually did try to talk to people at the water park, which is another sign of progress. And I'm not saying this to brag, but more of like if people say, oh my gosh, I wish the multiverse was real because my life stinks. I personally wouldn't want to change a thing because I wouldn't be able to feel the results of overcoming the hardships. And I'm just really happy with how things turned out. Also, random fun fact if you guys are wondering what is the deal with these rocks back here, these were actually things that Danielle and I did for our 10-year friendversary. So I don't know if you can see it very well on the webcam, but this says 10 years. And this one is, again, we didn't have much room to work with. This one is a slice of pizza because pizza is my favorite food. And this one says CHWC. You can tell I painted this because it looks terrible. And then this one is just me being lazy. Well, this one is just me being lazy and just painting it blue because blue is my favorite color. That's a good point. Aragor. I can't even pronounce the alternate name. That's a good point that free will is defeated by a multiverse. Jevil, I think it's totally possible for you to find love. You just got to ask people, what are the tips? Okay, I'll say R. That works. Yes, I do really love pizza. The other day, my mom was like, "We're gonna get pizza," and then and then circumstances happened, and then I didn't get pizza. I don't know. Maybe it was my mom's secret way of saying, Paul, you need to eat healthier. But I think I eat relatively healthy. Like, obviously, I'm not like obsessed with eating 100% healthy. Otherwise, I'd be constantly eating salads and vegetables. But I do try to limit how much sugary stuff is in my system so that it's like maybe a small quantity if I'm going to do it. Like, I'm not going to binge on all of the Reese's pieces if there are some in a bowl. I might take like two or something like that. I'm not sure if I get your reasoning, Jevil, but yeah, I'll have to think about that a little bit more. I do know that as Catholics, we believe that God knows about all possible realities. But I also, now I'm not sure if the Catechism says this. This is just me guessing. But I would imagine that if it was possible for us humans to travel through the multiverse, God would prevent it because he God loves us so much that he's put us into the perfect timeline from his will. But because we are only potent, not omnipotent, meaning that we can't see everything. But since God can, he sees the bigger picture. It's kind of like people that when they first play 999, they think about like, oh, our goal is this based on what the game tells you. But then after you beat the game and you know like the twist and what the whole thing is about, then you start to realize, shoot, I felt like I knew nothing after all. That's essentially, from my understanding, how I see God. Is we might think we're in a terrible timeline, but in actuality, because God loves us so much, He put us in the best possible timeline. And that's why the multiverse, if it does exist, God prevented it from being possible. Again, I can't prove it at present. I don't have a source to quote this, but I do know that the Bible says that God infinitely loves us and that He would never put us into a scenario that we can't have enough grace to get through. Multiple timelines, I don't know if you're asking me or Jevil, but when I hear that phrase, I usually explain it as a timeline is like, hmm. Let me try to give you a really simple example. Let's say that you came to a fork in the road and you had to decide between whether to take the left, the middle, or the right path. Now, obviously, since we humans can't go back in time, we're going to just choose one path. Now, our reasons for choosing the path don't really matter. What matters is we make a decision. Now, if the multiverse were to exist, then in an alternate reality that's separate from this one, then that would mean that you would choose a different path, which would mean that say in the middle path you get run over by a car, that ends your life prematurely, whereas the you on the right path continued living normally. That would mean that there's a universe out there where your life was drastically changed. However, we believe that because God is omnipotent and He knows the ultimate timeline, that no matter what choice you made, even if it was the wrong choice, He'll give you the grace to not be destined to be in hell because of that choice, if that makes any sense. It's very, very confusing stuff. It involves a lot of quantum physics. But that's the simplest explanation I can think of. Well, the thing is, we do know the basics of God's plan because as Catholics, we have the Catechism, we have the Bible, we have the church leaders, we have a whole bunch of different sources that tell us, even if we don't know exactly how the future will play out, we at least know how God wants us to live out our lives. But because we have free will, we can choose not to follow his laws. And then that can lead to us having what's called temporal punishment, which means God will say, you didn't listen to me, so bad things are going to happen. But God also loves us so much that he will never allow the bad things to be so bad that we have completely lost all chances at redemption. Like basically every single person, no matter who you are, has a 100% equal time or equal opportunity to get to heaven. Like there's no such thing as a person who has, how do I word this? Basically, if we were all cups and the water in the cups was the grace that's needed to get into heaven, all of us would be identical, is what I'm trying to say. That's not what we as Catholics believe, Jevil. We as Catholics believe that God is, well, that he exists in every single possible time period. So, if that's your belief, I'm not going to judge you for it, but I have my beliefs and I believe that the Catholic Church is true. I mean, if I didn't believe that the Catholic Church was true, then I would definitely have to change the name of this channel. And I don't really like changing names of the channels, and I also don't think that the Catholic Church is false. If I find out that it's false, then I will change this channel's name. As of now, though, I haven't been given proof otherwise. And my mouth is getting really dry. I don't know if it's just the weather or I'm not drinking enough water or what. Hopefully, it's not coming from me talking too much to you guys. That's a good point. That's a really good point about, like, if there were multiple decisions, then it would basically confirm that predestination exists because it would be more of an eventuality as opposed to you choosing. So that's a really good point that I never considered. I like how you said alternate me's it with the double eyes because those are the avatars that Nintendo uses on every system they've made since the Wii. So I don't know if that's what you intended, but that's like unintentionally brilliant. Yeah, I like playing games that involve multiple timelines. As Jevil can attest, I love games like Zero Time Dilemma and AI The Somnium Files. But that doesn't mean that I believe in a genuine multiverse. I do believe that we are given the ability to choose. But just because we don't know the exact, how do I word this? God gives us the knowledge of what to do to make the best choices. That doesn't mean we have to make them. And if we do make the wrong choices, then God is going to find a way to make sure that if we were truly malicious in making the wrong choices, that we're going to have, some kind of punishment. Let's see. One course out of billions. Yeah, that would. You're kind of melting my brain right now, Aragorn. This is super cool. Everything that you're saying. Oh, good. You put in the me's. That's cool. But yeah, like if there were alternate Pauls that made different decisions, I would be really worried because if those other Pauls existed, then who knows what other stuff they could have done that set me on a far worse course than I am now. Let's say, for example, that I chose not to go to the park on one particular day in countless days. I don't know, maybe that one day of not going to the park where I stayed at home would have caused my metabolism to work or to be worse. And so I wouldn't have been able to have the energy to go to the water park. Like if we entertain those possibilities, then it kind of gives me a headache trying to figure that all out, but I'm thankful that I don't live in such a universe. I'll leave that to God to figure out. Okay, let me see if I'm understanding you correctly, Jevil. Um, okay, let's see. Well, the topic of predestination from a Catholic level is kind of a confusing one because we do believe that God knows everything, and that he ultimately knows what decisions we're going to make before we make them because he's outside of time. So he sees everything as happening simultaneously. So 80-year-old me and 1-year-old me are technically both coexisting in God's mind. However, the law of predestination from the perspective of religion teaches that some people are, no matter what choices they make, are destined for a bad future. Like, for example, some religions believe that, like, from the moment a person was conceived, God just snapped his finger and said, that person is going to hell no matter what they do. God gives us so many opportunities to turn around and repent that the catechism actually teaches that we don't even know how God does it. Like, for all we know, at the end of time, God could pull a zero time dilemma and just say, let me show you all these really cool things and let me take you through time and let me show you what could have happened if you had made the decisions differently. We don't know all of that. But we know that because God is all powerful, that he could do that. And so, because we don't know what God's going to do at the end of our lifetime, we don't believe in predestination. I tried to grossly oversimplify that. I'm sorry if I did not make sense. I don't know. That's a good question. I certainly hope you don't become a warrior because I'd like to think that in real life I'm a pacifist and I would prefer to sort things out. I would prefer to sort things out peacefully rather than with conflict. So I think I would prefer you to become a computer geek, but I also don't have the ability to influence free will, and neither does God, which I'm really thankful for because from what I've heard, there's nowhere in scripture that indicates that God told Joseph to be with Mary. He did tell her, don't be afraid to take her as your wife after he was considering divorcing her. But there's no indication that he actually intervened and said, this is the person you are going to marry. So he allowed Joseph or whoever Joseph's matchmakers were to make that free will decision, and he intervened when Joseph was going to do something else. But you may have also noticed that God didn't hack into Joseph's mind. He didn't like control Joseph like a robot. He said, Joseph, don't be afraid. And Joseph could have said no, but instead he obeyed God. And that's what I really like about God is that he'll nudge us in the right direction, but he won't ever force us to go in the right direction. Wait, what does teleportation have to do with finding love, Jevil? I'm not sure I'm understanding you. I mean, if you're talking about finding true love, then, well, we as Catholics believe that at the end of time, there's a reality known as heaven where we'll get to be in perfect unity with all of the righteous people from throughout all of time, and that includes God. And so, love on this earth is it's merely a pale reflection. Like it even the happiest even the happiest couple in the world can't even come close to how happy we'll be when we're around all of our loved ones and seeing God as he is. That being said, God still very much God still very much loves it when we find true love because God made us creatures capable of understanding what love is. I'm sorry if I'm confusing you guys because some of the stuff is based on, my dad is an apologist, so he teaches me a lot of really advanced stuff. But basically, the very first commandment God said in the Bible was be fruitful and multiply, which involves really loving the other person because it is, from what I've heard, it is possible that sex can be done wrong and it can be done to hurt and it can be done maliciously. But the fact that God told them be fruitful and multiply basically means that he approves of sex in the right context. If we were to do things sooner than we were supposed to, this world would be filled with all sorts of chaos. Wait a minute. Now that I said that, Jevil, because your name is Jevil, does that mean you're trying to put the world on a bad path because you love chaos? Oh, I see. Yeah, like a warrior when necessary. I see. Yeah, that makes a bit more sense. I would like to think that I have decent conflict resolution skills if I have to resolve things by force. I just don't particularly like doing it. But as I've stated before, just because you don't like something, it doesn't mean that, or no, other way around. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to like it. So, for example, I was apparently told that I was a really good wreath salesman, but I hated it. So, does that mean that I should have kept going because I was good at it? No. It meant that I needed to find out what I liked and what I was good at. Okay, what's your question here, Jevil? Um, I don't actually know how we were made. That's a good question. I just know that the very first humans were made directly by God. And then he gave them the power to procreate and have sex. And from there, every other human being in existence happened. But if you want to know how God made us specifically, That would get into me talking about sex education, which I would prefer not to do here on this channel. That seems a little bit too a bit too R-rated. But let's just say if you've heard the birds and the bees, that's the scientific explanation of how we were made. But we also believe that God played a part in making us who we are. Like obviously science made us what we are, but God like made us have things like free will and rational thought, if that makes any sense. Yep, that's a common saying in the Catholic Church, from dust you were born and to dust you will return during Ash Wednesday. I mean I mean there were crusades that were called Catholic crusades. Whether they were right or not, I don't know. But I do know that in the Bible times, God did command quite a lot of wars. So I think if he approved of those, then there were probably some wars that involved guns that he didn't disapprove of. Yeah, I think you got it, Jevil. If yeah, science explains the how, and religion explains the who. That sounds so funny when I word it like that, but that's essentially true. Like if we were to only go by science, then you would have to explain why is it that the animals are also able to procreate, but yet the animals don't have free will or intellect. They go by instinct. So why is it that we as humans are capable of rational thought, but the animals aren't? Admittedly, I could be missing something, like maybe there's a neural pathway in the brain that causes that to happen. But then I would also ask, how did that get to be? How why is conception even possible? Like, yes, science says this is how it happened, but why does it happen like that? Why does the earth rotate around the sun? Why are trees able to grow despite them not having a brain? There's a lot of questions that if you don't believe in God, then the closest answer you'd probably have is I don't know, it just is. But we as Catholics believe that God he's essentially in control of the things that we can't explain on our own. And we also believe that if God were to just like take a break from ruling the world, that it would cease to be. That without God, the sun would stop shining. We we would essentially just live in an apocalyptic wasteland without God. Actually, Jevel, Catholics believe the same thing. We believe that science is very valid. And in fact, there were quite a lot of scientific Catholics, still are, but like a lot of the ancient philosophers who were Catholics would try to use science to explain God. So Catholics definitely don't oppose of science. We just oppose of science by itself without God's intervention. That's where we would disagree. Yes, that's a good point. That's a good another good point, Aragorth. Like a machine doesn't exist on its own. It has a creator and it has all the various parts that make it able to work. And if you also take a computer program, this is an example I gave back when I was young and stupid, but a computer cannot do anything unless it was programmed to do it. Like, contrary to what was said in games like Virtue's Last Reward, an artificial intelligence is only as smart as it was programmed to be. I'm not sure if science was believed in the Middle Ages or not. That's something that I haven't studied enough, but that would be very cool if that were the case. As I'd be like, "Yay, scientific monks! That's so cool." Yeah, history wasn't one of my best subjects. I know enough about it to get the gist of how things went, but I wouldn't say that I'd be able to like point to one nation or another and say that America's the best. For me, I just don't really like change and innovation very much. So for me, I'm just happy to be an American because that's how I've been born and raised, and I don't really feel like trying out any other cultures. Uh Yeah, I mean, Jevil, there are people that don't even believe in science at all. So, granted, not that many of those people exist, but there are people called moral relativists. Then there are also people called modernists and postmodernists, where their view of truth is very subjective. That is another very complicated subject. I've been entertaining thoughts about multiverses and free will and predestination. I'm not sure if I can go into that other can of worms. My head's gotta. I don't want to have to take too many migraine pills or whatever they're called. I have 5 people watching this. What the heck, guys? You are amazing. And then it just changed to 4 as soon as I said this. I'm sorry, was heck the wrong word, mysterious fifth person? I didn't mean to upset you. I hope you're enjoying this discussion, whatever it is. Um, I don't normally get this deep onto this deep of subjects, but hey, you know what? That's what I like about you guys, is you can totally change the direction of what my stream was intended to be. So I thank you all very much for having those kinds of deep thoughts. You know, I wonder if you guys will have to confirm this for me because I don't really, obviously, I can't see my stream by itself, but I'm wondering if the number on the corner of the screen, it's probably more like here for you guys, is actually accurate. Because for me, it says 5 people are watching and 2 people have liked. But is that actually accurate? Or is one of those 5 people a bot? Because that's just always fascinated me. How like when I'm on my friends' streams, it'll say 5 people are watching, but yet I'm the only one talking. So it makes me wonder if maybe there's an error in the computing process, and it's actually just making me think that I'm popular, and when in reality I'm not. I would be very curious to know your thoughts. I wanted to spread good chaos, huh? Well, I'd be very happy to see what kind of chaos that is. Oh, it's a good thing you mentioned that, Aragorth, because I recently had to reboot my Discord. So I don't think I have you as a friend anymore just because it ended up erasing all of my friends. So I had to like rejoin all of the discords from scratch. So let me just put my name here and my tag in the chat so that you can refriend me. Epic Paul 64 number. Okay, there you go. So yeah, if you sent me anything in recent memory, then it's not that I didn't want to respond. It's that one, I had computer troubles, and two, I had to reboot my Discord. But yeah, if you refriend me, then yes, you could DM me. Well, you could DM me anything you want, as long as you're at least 18. Well, some people like to do what's called lurking, Jevil. It's just interesting that the lurkers often don't say that they're lurkers. But that's totally okay. I'm not the kind of YouTuber that cares a whole lot about overt's amount of popularity. For me, it's all about if people are enjoying themselves. So if hypothetically I only had one subscriber, but that one subscriber loved my channel so much that they said it was like the highlight of their year and revolutionized their life and all that other great stuff, then I would say that's worthy of celebration. But say I had 600 subscribers, which I technically do, but only 2 of them really liked my channel, then I would say, what's the point of the other 598? Um, I I don't think that's I tried doing what you were saying, Jevil, but it doesn't do anything when I click on the Oh, okay. I see. I didn't know Twitch could do that. I'll have to keep that in mind. That's a cool tip. Well, I know that JP2 said he'd be right back. I don't particularly care. What matters is if you're happy just lurking, that's totally fine by me. I just don't want to bore you guys. Because if I'm boring you, let me know in the comment section and I will turn off the stream. I'll do whatever it takes. I I know it doesn't seem like that when I'm joking around, but I really do care about my friends quite a lot. And I definitely care about making sure that people are. Well, hello, JP. Welcome back. It was you missed us talking quite a lot about multiverses and free will and predestination and a lot of stuff that normally gives me a headache. So, I'm really glad that I was able to simplify it because there are so many people that do not know how to simplify those concepts. That is cool, Jevil. I will definitely have to keep that in mind the next time I'm on Twitch. But yeah, like I how do I word this? Like obviously I know I'm not going to be perfect at making every single person happy. As a content creator, that's just something that you have to be willing to accept. You have to be willing to realize that if you put yourself on the internet, someone is going to criticize you. You're never going to be 100% perfect, no matter how hard you try. Even the most popular YouTubers in the world have people that hate them. And I have to be willing to I have to be willing to accept that there are some people who are not going to like my content and I can't I can't ever please everyone. And there are some things that I'm going to make. There are some things I'm going to make that people aren't going to like. But I never want to make my channel to such a degree that it's going to literally make people feel like I crossed a line. And I know that some people are going to argue, but Paul, you say things that might be transphobic or homophobic. To which I respond, double check the meaning of phobia in the dictionary, then come back to me and tell me if I'm transphobic or homophobic. Because actually, I will check it right now for that matter. I will check out what it says for phobia. Yes, I am reading what you guys are saying. I just don't often read them back to you. Um, I don't actually know what 1K means. Does that mean 1,000? I actually haven't been keeping track of how many Pegasus has. As long as she's happy with her subscribers, then I'm happy too. Oh, you're still friended to me? That's cool. Yeah, send me a message whenever you want. That'll be cool. Okay, phobia. Here we go. A phobia is an uncontrollable, irrational, and lasting fear of a certain object, situation, or activity. This fear can be so overwhelming that a person may go to great lengths to avoid the source of this fear. One response can be a panic attack. This is a sudden, intense fear that lasts for several minutes. That is from hopkinsmedicine.org. Wikipedia says a phobia is a type of anxiety disorder defined by a persistent and excessive fear of an object or situation. Phobias typically result in a rapid onset of fear and are present for more than 6 months. So is it sounds like a phobia is something that's outside of your control. So like if someone were legitimately transphobic, then that would mean that they don't have a reason for not liking or for being afraid of trans people. It says nothing about not liking them. It says you're afraid. So the real question would be if a truly transphobic person existed, they would be irrationally and uncontrollably afraid, possibly having a panic attack or throwing up. Have you guys noticed me doing that? If you haven't, then I'm not transphobic. But just to be safe, I will look up transphobia in the dictionary and see if it the um, contradicts the meaning of the word phobia. Okay, so according to Wikipedia, it says transphobia is a collection of ideas and phenomena that encompass a range of negative attitudes, feelings, or actions towards transgender people or transness in general. So it sounds like it's actually not the definition of actual phobia. Another source here, I don't know, plannedparenthood.org. Well, that's what you get for looking up sources. You got to look up sources you don't always approve of. Transgender and gender nonconforming people may experience harassment or discrimination from people who are scared or uncomfortable with these identities. Okay. So it looks like they're at least acknowledging that phobia is fear, first and foremost. Okay. Okay, I see. Yeah. So there's my little research of the day. I always love looking through Wikipedia. I I love, well, not just Wikipedia, because I know that sometimes they can be wrong about things. I love looking up information and finding out what does something actually mean, because lately the news outlets have been reported on what they feel like as opposed to what actually is. Rational disagreements. Yeah, I I would say I pretty much agree with that. Like, I feel like from my understanding of how the gender spectrum works is a person's gender is like logically it's defined by the shape of your body at birth, and that's like an objective fact. However, there are people that are either saddened or they have a certain emotion towards what they wish their body was like or what they think their body is like due to various abnormalities in the brain, which is known as gender dysphoria. That doesn't erase the fact that a person exists as they exist. So, for example, say you take a redhead. Now, redhead is the general definition for someone whose natural hair color is red. Now, the person, whether or not the person likes the fact that their hair is red, is irrelevant because the fact is their hair is red. Of course, if you want to be really politically, or not politically, if you want to be really scientific about it, then technically there's no such thing as colored hair because all of us actually have gray hair, but when we're young, we have what's called pigmentation, which causes the hair to take on the appearance of a color. And so, obviously, depending on what pigmentation you have, changes the color of your hair. But as you get older, the pigmentation dies, which causes the hair to revert to its natural state, which is the same thing with leaves. The reason why leaves appear colored, well, that might be a slightly different issue, but basically that's essentially what my understanding is of people with gender dysphoria, is that they have these feelings of discomfort that they want to ignore the objective reality. And that's where I would say, well, that's an emotion, but emotions are a chemical reaction in the brain that doesn't necessarily correspond to reality. For example, I could take a swig of water right now, and all of a sudden I could feel a rush of sadness coming through me, and I could say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so upset right now." But that reason for being upset doesn't make any sense. I was just drinking water. Why? That would mean that because anyone with a brain knows drinking water shouldn't make you upset, that something else is going on. There's an underlying problem either in the brain or in your personal life or a variety of factors. And based on my understanding, that's how these people operate. And that's why I feel sorry for them, first and foremost. I hope that they're able to get help. I hope that they're able to have a proper sexual education. And I especially hope that they're able to get a therapist because from what I've heard, there actually is no such thing as a gay or lesbian gene. It's actually the result of severe trauma or abuse during childhood that caused the brain to have skewed perspectives, which is also the case for things like dissociative identity disorder. You don't start out with multiple personalities. It's that the brain sort of has a split because of severe trauma. And so that's a coping mechanism to protect you. Did I make any sense, guys? Like, I hope. I hope I was able to explain that sufficiently. I will keep that in mind, Jevil, but I definitely do think that people should be able to quote their sources a lot more if they're going to be throwing insults. I don't know why, but I really have a fascination with explaining things to people. I love being able to clarify things. I love being able to inform people of truth. And I love being able to just look at things from an outsider's perspective, like completely separate from my own feelings and just say, "Okay, this is how it is." You like explaining things too, Aragorth? That's so cool. Well, the thing about preference is that that's another very subjective thing because again, if we're going to look it up, let's look up the word preference here. So, according to Oxford Languages Dictionary, preference, a greater liking for one alternative over another or others. So basically, preference is another subjective, meaning this is what you want over another option. So, in other words, if you have a gender preference, that implies that you are making a level of choice, despite the fact that babies do not have the cognitive ability to choose their gender because they haven't developed a rational side. They can't just immediately snap their fingers in the womb and say, "Hey, I feel like being a girl, so I am going to therefore be a girl." They don't have that ability. And so when you say I have a gender preference or I have a sexuality preference, it's implying that it's a highly emotional state of being. And emotions, unfortunately, do not represent reality. They represent how your brain is interpreting an event, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean it's right. For example, if I make a joke, that joke could offend you. And you could say, "Oh my gosh, Paul, you're being so mean." But I'm actually not being mean. My intent with the joke is to make you laugh. So if you interpret it as me being mean, that is emotional. It is not rational. It is not logical because a rational perspective is being able to look at things exactly as it is without any personal bias whatsoever. So, an example of a rational perspective would be take these headphones. An emotional perspective on a headphones would be these feel nice on my ears. It's really cool that I have headphones. They are a nice color of black. Those are subjective preferences. Objectively, I would say this allows me to talk to you guys because of the mouthpiece on the microphone. They could potentially cause damage to my hairline somewhere along the way. That's objective and rational. That's exactly what a preference is, Jevil. That is a perfect analogy. But still, that doesn't mean it's logical to pick vanilla over chocolate. That's also that's also itself an emotion. Even if it doesn't seem like it, it's still very subjective. Like you inwardly say, "I want." And as soon as the word I or me comes into play, then it sort of stops becoming objective. The objective thing to say would be ice cream is a food. And so therefore, it doesn't matter what I pick because I'm going to be eating it anyway. That is objective. Yep. That's yeah, that's basically what I was saying, Aragorth, that trauma can sort of create these preferences. Like for example, people who have been in abusive situations, like Stockholm syndrome, when you start falling in love with your abuser. Now, a rational person would say, "Well, that's stupid. You should be trying to get out of there." but they're not taking into account the emotion of the trauma, which is where you get into a whole lot of gray areas because then you have to ask yourself how much emotion is allowed and how much of it is reading into things too much. Because Jesus wept. Jesus wept. He got angry. He was pleased. There were a lot of times where the Bible expressed that Jesus was having emotions. But I think what the Catholic Church tries to teach is that emotions are subject to questioning if you're abandoning rational thought completely. But yet again, Jelva, you're saying I want, which want, oh my gosh. Wanting implies that it's your personal preference, which itself is emotional. It might not be emotional in the sense that it's like I am happy or sad or angry. It's emotional in the sense that it's subjective. Maybe that would be a better way of wording it. Is it subjective? All right, see you around, JP. Yep, I'll definitely be firing on all cylinders going forward. So I hope and I'm glad that you guys have stuck around so much. I think I should probably end the stream here, not because I don't like this conversation, but because I'm hearing some shuffling footsteps, so I don't want to be too loud. But thank you very much, guys, for sticking around. If you want to discuss this further, then just pop something in the comments section. Um, Aragorth, if I don't get back to your message right away, it's probably because you have the alternate Epic Paul account that I had to reboot. So let me give you my current name again, and so that you can look at the number and know that, oh, that's the rebooted Epic Paul 64. Because the rebooted Epic Paul 64 doesn't have a profile picture. The original one did. So find that one and then we'll go from there. So with that being said, thank you again for watching, you guys. Hopefully I can do this more often. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and thank you again for your support. Bye.